Well, hey there, Diet Disruptors. Carrie here. And I always love a good podcast episode when I have a guest on. And I am so thrilled about this guest. And let me tell you a little bit why first before I introduce her formally. So, I am always looking for like-minded people, always looking for the concepts that we teach around blood sugar stabilization and people understanding how to speak what I call their body's love language is I'm always on the radar for. And our head coach in my private practice, Deb, came across an ad from the topic of what we're going to talk about, and she sent it to me and she said, Carrie, we have to meet these people. They are our people. And so we set up a call, and now for a couple of months we have been connecting with Emily and Drew. And I have Drew Letterman on today because she is one of the founders of this solution that Deb and I have been looking for truly years. So I'm so excited, Drew, to be able to welcome you here. I know Emily couldn't be here, but you are here. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are. I'm so excited because when we talk about the solution and what you have come up with, it is it is so needed. It is so important, and yet the solution exists, or the idea of it exists all over the place. And I think it confuses people. And we are just going to bring in massive clarity for people around this one thing that I think trips people up. But before we get into what it is that you figured out, I want to hear a little bit about you first, because your story and the reason why you do what you do right now is really powerful, important, and we have to like set the stage, get some context together about who you are so that we can understand just how powerful what you did is. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, 100%. And I think they go together. My story and my health journey inspired this business. So we'll all get there together.
Yes, yes.
So basically, I was diagnosed with PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I was 18. I was just starting college. I didn't know how to read a nutrition label. I was no expert in ingredients, and nobody was talking about PCOS at the time. And now I feel like it's everywhere. People are talking about hormone health and blood sugar health and biohacking. But at the time, what I felt like I had access to were fitness influencers. And so when I asked my doctor what I could do, she said, you exercise and you have a low carb, low sugar diet. And I was like, great. I follow all these great fitness influencers, and I'm going to eat how they eat, and I'm going to work out how they work out, and I'm going to heal my symptoms, and I'm going to feel amazing. And so I did exactly that. I was in the gym every day. I was taking the pre-workout and the BCAAs and the creatine and the protein powder and the protein bars. And, when you're living in your body, you don't notice how things change.
Hmm.
You're seeing yourself every single day. And so noticing these changes actually took me some time,
Hmm.
but I watched my skin get worse, hormonal acne, my hair started falling out. I had mood swings, I was gaining weight like crazy, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is my PCOS symptoms."
Yes,
And
yes.
a comorbidity to PCOS is insulin resistance.
Hmm.
And at the time I was like, gosh, like nobody has this. I'm so alone. But PCOS actually affects the numbers today are around 15% of women and people with ovaries, but the experts say it may be closer to 1 in 5
Well,
because
and we're seeing more and more and more of it. And
yes,
there's a whole lot of reasons why, but it's gaining more quote unquote popularity. And I don't mean it in the way of like a popular thing, but just in terms of awareness, because more and more people are getting diagnosed with it.
yes, and that's really the problem is that
Hmm.
diagnosis was low, and
Yeah.
diagnosis I think is still not at the level of who really has it at the end of the day
Hmm.
because the criteria for the diagnosis, and Emily likes to say it's not like normal, but it's been normalized, these symptoms. So like
Right.
irregular periods, hormonal acne, we see these as, that's just being a woman, that's
Hmm.
just your period, or gaining weight, or any of these things. And I think it kind of pushes this narrative that like we'll never understand our hormones. We're never gonna, you know, be able to take control or understand what's going on in our bodies because that's just what it is to be a woman. And I don't like that narrative. We're changing that narrative.
I totally agree. But can you just give our listeners just a little bit of an understanding for those that don't know about what really PCOS is so that like they can really understand like the symptoms and how it's diagnosed?
Yes. So basically, the criteria for PCOS diagnosis is three things. It is an irregular period, an abnormal hormonal panel, and oh gosh, what is the third thing? Abnormal hormonal panel, irregular periods. You know what? I'm gonna have to go look it up. I
Yeah.
always have it in my back pocket. There's three criteria, but
Yep. But
anyway,
there's a lot of symptoms that kind of go along
yes,
with PCOS. Like you were even saying when you talk about acne,
elevated
inflammation.
androgens.
Sorry?
Yes, it's elevated androgens.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's male hormone
Yep.
that can cause hormonal acne, can cause um, hair loss,
Mm-hmm.
um, and having excess androgens is what leads to a lot of these symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, PCOS is commonly goes undiagnosed. Oh gosh, how could I forget the third one? It is cysts or enlarged follicles on
Oh,
your
right.
ovaries.
Which is exactly
The
what
name of
you
it.
a lot of times you see. Now, the other piece though, too, is that it can impact fertility. It can impact later on
Yes,
menopause. I mean, there's so many different impacts,
yes,
including, like you were saying, the acne, weight gain, and all sorts of
right.
other things.
What
Hmm.
is interesting is that PCOS has always been classified as a reproductive disorder because
Hmm.
there is a fertility element to things. But not every woman or person with ovaries has fertility problems with PCOS. There's plenty of people who don't have any fertility
Right.
problems, and those numbers are still coming out. Like I said, the research on PCOS is still relatively new.
Yep.
Part of that is because it's reproductive designation. It doesn't get as much funding as like a metabolic disorder would, like a diabetes would, even
Hmm.
though PCOS is truly a metabolic
Metabolic
disorder.
disorder. Yep.
Yeah. So, but that said, the numbers are closer to like 15 to 20% of women with PCOS have fertility problems. So,
Yep.
majority are really dealing with insulin resistance. They're dealing
Hmm.
with cortisol issues, adrenal issues. Um, yeah. So, it's coming down to a lot of the other elements of your metabolic, your hormone system, dealing with things like stress, which again, it's hard to quantify. It's hard
Exactly.
like without actually sitting down and having a hormonal panel done.
But this
So
is
that,
why it's so powerful. Like, I'm just so insistent that we understand blood sugar versus calories
yeah,
in versus calories out. Move
yes,
more, eat less. And thinking about uh, blood sugar is so important. And while so many of the clients that I work with in my private practice are women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, to your point, at 18 years old, you were seeing insulin resistance. And
yeah,
this is why I always say, like, there's three questions that we should ask before we start any nutritional approach. One, is it based in science, designed for our body to thrive, which is not what dieting is. It's designed in science, but not to thrive. Two, would you let your kids do it? And three, can you do it forever? And all of us need to be thinking about blood sugar.
exactly. But it's so confusing. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have heard of it, don't understand it. It's like, oh, blood sugar friendly, that's for diabetics, that's for older people, that's not for me.
Yep.
And so
Or
there's
I
a
don't
lot of,
have blood sugar issues because my A1C seems fine. I hear
yeah.
that a lot, you know?
Yeah. And so there's other inflammatory responses that you can look at and say, like, okay, maybe you can get people to think of it like, oh, I have this inflammation response or I XYZ. That's blood sugar spikes are inflammatory.
Yes.
Blood sugar spikes can lead to excess sebum production. That can
Yes.
lead to acne. Like there's so many other ways to describe it. I feel like that have been kind of helpful in helping people understand. And also saying like, because we used to really talk about hormone health. We talked a lot about, the whole system. And now we really focus on blood sugar because and people really don't understand hormone health. People understand blood sugar a little bit
Hmm.
more, but they're intrinsically linked. Insulin is a
Yep.
hormone. And so the way that your body is responding to these hormones is what we're trying to get at here.
And with
And
insulin being a hormone, once one hormone is off in our body, it often triggers many other hormones in our bodies to be off. So,
Right, right. I
yeah.
mean, that's why I feel like we're having this huge conversation, or some people are having a big conversation about GLP-1.
Yeah.
So like thinking now about, how is that interacting with our system here? And like it's been a big conversation internally of like what are people understanding here, and
Mm.
how can we share with them what we believe to be one of the best solutions on the market and get them to understand it with one sentence. And
Yeah.
that's been our challenge to really help people. And that's why we mostly, our customer base is most people who understand, who've already done the research. But our goal is to take to be so transparent and so clear that you don't need to become a nutrition expert the way that I had to be with my own diet in order to heal your symptoms. And then the other
Yeah.
element of things is I had said previously that I felt so alone when I was diagnosed, and nobody was talking about it. Obviously, things have really changed and for the better, I believe. But we want to make that conversation big because almost half of Americans are dealing with some sort of metabolic or hormonal imbalance, whether it's diabetes, insulin resistance, you're dealing with a chronic illness. I mean, the kind of diet that we're talking about here of, it's a lifestyle at the end of the day, but
Mhm.
maintaining stable blood sugar and reducing inflammation, it could be beneficial to so many other people who may not even have a diagnosis, like cancer
Absolutely.
survivors and,
Absolutely.
children.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. And the data can show even more than 50% of people have metabolic dysfunction in some level. Okay, so let's go back to where you were like, okay, I'm doing the things that all of these fitness people are telling me to do, and I feel worse. My
Yeah.
symptoms are worse. So, like, walk us through what you did to try to like figure this out.
Yeah. So I knew very little. I was not really in the health industry. I didn't know a lot about food, didn't know a lot about my body.
You were in college at this time, is that right?
Yes, I was in college at the time. Both my parents are in healthcare.
Okay.
So, like I said, you don't realize how bad things really, how much really has changed with you.
Hmm.
But I went home for the summer, and my parents took one look at me and were like, something's wrong.
Hmm.
Something is going wrong here. And I was, I wasn't feeling like myself. I was feeling really depressed about, and it's part of it is trying so hard and putting such an effort towards something, feeling like you're doing everything right and still not seeing the results you want is so
Hmm.
frustrating and discouraging. And so they were like, let's, go back to the doctor. And the doctor basically took one look at my hormonal panel and said, things have really changed for the worse.
Mm.
Um, what have you
But
changed
you're
in your
doing
life?
everything right, quote unquote, right.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Um, and so she basically said, go to this dietitian. I think that you need more nutrition help than I can really provide. And so I
Hmm.
went to him, the dietitian, and we took a look at, everything I had changed. And I was like, how is this happening? I'm having all these, my calorie intake is so low, or feels to be so low. And he's like, yeah, you need to eat more and you need to get rid of all of these artificial ingredients. Some people can pass this stuff really easily and some people can't. And that's why you see a lot of fitness influencers with a ton of hormonal acne.
Hmm.
And you're one of those people who this is not going to work with because, could be a lot of things, but most likely because of your diagnosis for
So
PCOS.
these supplements that you were taking were contributing to some of this and
Yeah,
the restrictive.
food supplements. Yeah,
Yeah.
so protein bars, protein
Yeah.
powder, and
Yeah.
the plethora of other fitness,
Yep.
you know, powdered substances I was
Yep.
taking for
Yep.
muscle building and energy.
It's just a whole nother category of processed quote unquote food. You know what I mean? It's not the Cheetos and the ding dongs. It's a whole nother category that can be really scary because there are regulations on really
Exactly.
these types of supplements at all. And so this is a scary place for us to be living when we're thinking we're doing right by our body, but throwing in a whole lot of garbage in a lot of ways.
Right. And that's why the transparency means so much to me and
Mhm.
to us as a business. And from a business side, it has been really interesting in the past couple of years to see brands that have come across as, healthy, better for you, because they're fitness products and no other reason. And now
Mhm.
seeing these lawsuits. So, like,
Mhm.
Fit Snacks, the Alani Nu company, they were sued. They're not allowed to call themselves healthy anymore.
Mhm.
Um, I know Cliff Bar got into an issue because of their sugar content and calling themselves healthy.
I mean, because let's be honest, like a Cliff Bar is going to just spike your blood sugar all day long.
I
And we see it with continuous glucose monitoring.
Exactly. Emily likes to say they're glorified cookies, and they really
Mhm.
are. So it's interesting to see that now, we're in the past few years have seen, our FDA really take a stance on added sugars, which I think
Mhm.
is so needed,
Mhm.
and also for super processed fitness foods that are
Yes.
just shouldn't be allowed to call themselves healthy. I think that being transparent with your ingredients and it also, and this is kind of a side note, but a lot of brands say that they are no sugar alcohols or say that
Mhm.
and it makes me feel like the marketing team is not communicating with the formulators and the founders might not even know kind of what's in their product. And a really good example of this is glycerin. Vegetable glycerin is a really common protein bar ingredient. It's super
Mhm.
common. It's in a lot of it's basically a sugar. It's sweet, but it has no calories. It's a sugar alcohol.
Mhm.
And one Google search will tell you this. But I we posted about you can bleep it out if we're not allowed to say it. We posted about David Barr and the ingredients for David Barr.
Yep.
And
We
immediately
can say
the
anything we want here, FYI.
perfect. Um, the team behind David got in the comments and was like, oh no, we don't use any sugar alcohols. And I was like, I posted a response video. I was like, this is a sugar alcohol. This is what's wrong with our fitness foods is that like marketers don't know what's in the
Mhm.
products and they're going off of, well, it's a healthy food, so it probably
Mhm.
doesn't have this. Or our
Or
founders
it
are telling
doesn't say sugar alcohol and they don't actually
right,
know the terms because you can't
exactly.
even pronounce most of the words, you know?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the founders say that it's all natural. And so the marketers think, okay, it's all natural.
But I mean,
And it,
even just the term natural flavors that is allowed in our ingredients can mean so many different things.
yes.
So, I mean, long story short, you ended up hearing like, okay, all these things and the protein bars and the protein shakes that I'm doing now, like they're also a necessary part of a lifestyle, right? Because when we're thinking about eating clean, whole, unprocessed foods as much as we can, serving our body, as busy people, it's just not always. I mean, you live in New York City, you're running around, like as a busy working mom myself, like protein bars have to be a part of my life, which is why I have been on a quest for years to be able to figure out a protein bar that has three criteria, really. One is that it's got as clean ingredients as possible. Two, that there's a good balance of the protein, fat, and carbs because most of the bars are really carb bars, which is going to
Yeah.
spike our blood sugar. And three, it has to taste good.
Yeah.
Because if it tastes like garbage, it's just like you're trying to like stuff it down your throat and it's awful. And so you and Emily really actually, and Emily is your business partner. And I believe this is from your story where you're like, I have to figure out a solution and nothing out there is meeting it. So you went on in college to work on developing your own protein bar.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story. I feel like I fell into entrepreneurship because of it, but it's exactly that. The processed bars clearly weren't working for me. They were triggering my symptoms. The all natural bars that are, dates and oats and honey and full of sugar
They're going to
also.
spike your blood sugar all day long.
Yeah, and same kind of inflammatory response leading to the same kind of symptoms.
Yep.
And I couldn't find anything else. And I
Yep.
tried the let me carry around a bag of nuts or, let me do a meat stick. And I was like, this is not working for me. And it doesn't have all the things that I need. And as someone with blood sugar problems, having fiber, having healthy fats, actually staying full became the priority. And so when I graduated was when we started working on, is when I met Emily. And we started working on this project together through our school's entrepreneurial institute. And that really inspired us. And we met so many incredible people who were working through their diagnosis and also looking for a product like this, that it
Mhm.
validated that there was a need.
Mhm.
And it inspired us to look at the research, look how many people are getting diagnosed. This is going to be a health crisis. We saw some statistics at the time, and this was in 2021 of like 1 in 3 children born today will have diabetes. And this
Yep.
is the kind of world we're trying to change.
When a doctor 40 years ago never saw one kid. They could
Right.
be, or not even 40 years ago, less than that, where they could have been in practice for 50 years and maybe saw one. And now we're
Right.
talking about 1 in 3. We're talking about 9 out of 10 deaths right now are due to a metabolic disease for people in their 60s and 70s. And we know that all of that, the root foundation is our prolonged dysregulated blood sugar. And The diet industry is not going to tell you that because they just want you to keep eating less and less so that it quote unquote works for a little while, which means you've lost weight for a little while, only to then gain it all back and think that you were the problem. Right. So
Right.
then you keep coming back for more. It's the craziest mind
Yo-yoing.
manipulation process. But as somebody that has a product line, and as somebody that has worked in developing formulas for protein shakes, I know how hard it is to develop a protein bar, which is what you set out to do, that met all of those criteria, that they were clean ingredients, that they wouldn't spike your blood sugar, and that they would taste good, and that they wouldn't cost the consumer like $15 a bar.
Oh, yeah.
So how did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, we are the type of business owners who are constantly learning. We knew really early on that we wanted to work with a medical advisory board. We wanted to do clinical research, so we got that out of the way pretty early. And lots of testing. We're always welcome to feedback. We're always testing. We're always improving. We just went through a recipe refresh. We're always willing to learn from our customers, and I think that's really served us as we've grown. Our customers are they're not afraid to come and say like, hey, at least our top customers, our favorites who are coming back to us and saying, hey, I like this, I like that. And that really leads us in the right direction. Our true customers who have been with us since day one, who love our brand and are so passionate about what we're doing, we listen. And I think that that's what you need to do. In terms of, being cost effective, I think that we are super scrappy in terms of the way that we run our business. I think having to grow a business without outside capital and as just two students out of school, it was really hard to raise funds, so we knew we would need to be really scrappy early on, so as not to have like the most expensive bar. And we have reached the point where we've been able to lower our prices slightly, which that was really what we wanted from the beginning. I mean, and we had said that to our customers. We didn't want to have to go to market with our products. Used to be in stores, like around 360, 369. And now we've been able to lower in stores to 329. So that's been just really, really exciting for us as a brand, to have grown to the point where we can reduce our prices. And on our website, you can get us at $3 a bar. So, we're constantly trying to make that a better experience for people, because
Yeah.
being accessible is what we want. We want
Yes.
everybody to be able to afford our product, especially, people who have struggled with these kinds of diagnoses don't always have the funds to really invest in their health, like buying a continuous glucose monitor.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So for me, I am really obsessed with, before I ever recommend a product, that I like it myself, of course,
Yeah.
but B, I really am passionate about knowing the people behind the product. And so anytime I'm recommending anything, I am very much around like, there are plenty of things out there and plenty of things out there that I use that I don't know the people behind. But if I'm going to recommend it, I really gotta know. And meeting you and Emily, as young and as dynamic as you are, how you've solved a problem that truly people have just not been able to solve. I've been doing this work for over 10 years, and there hasn't been a single product that I've really been able to promote or endorse or recommend that honestly I felt like 100% behind. It was as good as it could be. And I would say to my clients, listen, there's no perfect protein bar. There just isn't. But yours might be the closest one I have ever found, which, and knowing the two of you, your heart and your dedication to not just a good product, but education. And so the
Yeah.
name of your bar is called Resist, which we'll talk a little bit about. But your website, your emailings, you are all about education, which I love because everything I do is around education. I always say, like, people just say they want a meal plan, but I'm never going to give anybody just a meal plan. They got to understand their bodies, what they're doing, and make decisions for themselves based on that learning. But for you and Emily to be able to have built this at such a young age, solve a problem that truly nobody else has been able to solve. And I wanted to make sure you were on my podcast, that I'm sharing this with you because A, I'm officially promoting and endorsing your bars as the bars of choice for my private practice, for all of the kind of the avenues that I work in to share with people. But also, I want people to meet you because the people behind these kinds of products are, I just feel like, yeah, you can get bars for $1 and $1.50, but also recognize that cheap is very expensive when it comes to your health.
Right.
And knowing the type of business that you're supporting and putting your money to makes it so much better. So not only do you have an incredible product, but you have an incredible company and mission behind it, which I just feel like people can get behind and will want to support.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's, as an early stage company, we've been around for 2 years. We're still hitting, you know, milestones every day and just trying to again make a good product and we feel really responsible for making an amazing product and making a product that works, making a product that, you know, continues to change and grow and become better as we see more research, as we do more research. And that's kind of why I brought up, how other companies calling themselves healthy or not knowing what's in
Yeah,
their products. We never want to be one of those companies. So,
I
I
love
think
that.
it's incredibly important to be transparent, make a great product. And like you said, health is when you're buying a product that is incredibly cheap, it may fit into your needs. It may fit into what you're looking for, and maybe it's the thing that you want to include in your life. But I believe in the power of great food and the power of healthy food helping you live your best life. I think that had you, I mean, I always say that I made the bar that I wish I had when my health was at its worst.
Right. Right.
And I think you can't, like, I spent so much money on supplements. I spent so much money on, I spent way more money than I would have spent on just having the right, daily foods and
Right.
snacks in my diet versus, trying to cover up the acne and take all these supplements,
And
all
not
the
actually
hair care
getting to the
supplement.
root.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Getting to the root cause.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully I can say with confidence that, it would have improved my symptoms at the time and also saved me money considering
But
how
you
much I.
needed to go through that so you could have come up with a solution that literally nobody else has been able to come up with. And I
Exactly.
mean, you had the need, and then Emily has a background in food science, what I
Yes.
understand, right? And that's how you guys partnered together. And so one of the things I do want to just clarify, especially for our listeners, because the thing that I say this, a couple of things. One, food serves our body and food serves our soul, and we need both. So if we're gonna go with something that's cheap, but it's like it serves my soul, like there is something,
Yes.
then fine, right? But we have to serve our body more than we're serving our soul. And so I'll say it straight up. If you're doing a protein bar every day and you're doing something that is not serving your body, it's going to impact your health. Now, how do I train my clients on having protein bars? Well, we follow the approach of POC3, where it's a protein, fat, and carb every 3 hours, where we're always ready to eat, satisfied, ready to eat, satisfied. And we know by wearing continuous glucose monitoring that actually my clients, there's a theory, there's a myth that every time you eat, you're going to spike your blood sugar. But I know, and I don't subscribe to keto because there's a whole lot of issues with keto. We need carbs. Carbs fuel our brain and give us energy, but we need to understand that balance. And if we're eating every 3 to 4 hours based on hunger, then we could be eating 5 or 6 times a day, depending on how long we're awake. And we need to be able to have a grab and go as part of our process and solution, but that can't be how we're fueling our body all day. So I don't want people to think I'm all about like a protein bar for every meal or that you need to have like this meal replacement, whole, clean, unprocessed food in a balance of protein, fats, and carbs is
Exactly.
essential. But you cannot live the busy lifestyle that we have without having an emergency mobile food kit in your bag. And that should include high quality protein bars. The problem is there are very, very few, if honestly any, other than what I have found with your bar that meets the criteria for something that I feel as good about in having every day. And in full transparency, we have recommended the Aloha bar for years because it was the closest thing that I could find, but it didn't have enough protein. And when we really started putting the continuous glucose monitor on our clients a couple of years ago, it spiked for more clients than it didn't. And so we had to kind of hack a little bit, like eat the protein bar a lot slower. Try to add a little extra protein to it, which makes it like
Yeah, defeating the purpose, you
That was the
know?
purpose of a protein bar. So I just want to be really clear about that. It is I call it a supplement, right? It's a supplemental. Like when I think about supplements, I think of the word supplemental. I think of like a sauna as a supplemental practice to my
Yeah.
health. And I think a protein bar, a high quality protein shake, a protein bar or shake, but in this case, a bar is what is a supplemental piece of it, but a very important piece of the puzzle because
Yeah, I
I have a
agree.
bar probably every day.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. And I think we like to say that we are the next best thing. You know, we want
Yeah.
and have that whole food
Yeah.
meal or multiple meals throughout the day. We don't want to be the first choice. We want to be what you need in a pinch. We're going to be there for you. We're
Yeah.
going to
It fills
be
the
who you
gaps.
rely on.
Yeah.
Yeah, fills the gaps. And it's like, like I said, I tried to do it all the different ways. And I found it was just, I needed a bar. I needed something
Of
complete.
course. Yes.
And I think, I think Aloha Bar fits into some people's diets perfectly and can be super useful, especially if you're working out, you're hiking, and you need that extra sugar and you need those extra carbs. My fiance's a runner and he does need more carbs than I do as a
Yep.
non-runner.
Yep.
But I think, and they're a B Corp. There's so many great things about that
Right.
company,
Right.
and I'm supportive of them 100%. But we're doing something different here.
Yep.
We're hitting the same use case,
Yep.
and that's why we're so proud of what we've created. And again, if
You
if
should
anybody
be.
tries the product and has thoughts, ideas, feedback, new flavor ideas, like our DMs are open, our email is open, and we're always open to learning more, growing more.
I do have a request for a really good chocolate.
Yeah,
Because the decadence gives like, my clients that really have those like that love for chocolate, it kind of gives them that
yes.
at night that piece. But I know how hard it is to develop a bar.
Oh, it's so
And what
challenging.
with that balance that tastes really good. But your bars taste great. They really do. And what I like about them too is that when you're like in the heat, they don't get all melty.
Yes, that's another
That's
big thing. I mean,
huge.
not having a chocolate coating, not having a caramel layer,
Yes.
that a lot of artificial bars have those things. It's, they're not going to melt, which is important.
Exactly. Exactly.
We have been thinking about a chocolate flavor that has, added greens. Yes, chocolate
Nice.
good at covering the,
Well, over here, me and our clients, we will test anything you need tested. So let's
perfect.
just tap into a little bit about the name Resist. When I first started talking about your bars, I was like, okay, why the name Resist? And then Emily told me, and I'm like, well, gosh, that makes so much sense. So tell us a little bit about where the name came from and what it stands for.
Yeah, so it comes from insulin resistance and
Insulin
resisting
resistance, get it? It's so fun. I was
and
like, of
and
course.
yes, and then also how, what insulin resistance is, you're resisting. And so the body resists and absorbs different foods and different nutrients, the process that your body goes through when you eat fiber. And so fiber is really our hero ingredient, healthy fats
Mhm.
as well, and protein, of course, but fiber is so powerful. It resists digestion in your gut. So that resistant process can be prebiotic.
Mhm.
It helps your body stay fuller for longer. It takes more work for the body to digest. There's so many great ways. And so we think about like, oh, a lot of supplements are like, oh, you need to do this to absorb it better. You need to take some vitamin K with your vitamin D to absorb better. And there's so
Yep.
many ways we talk about absorbing, but the benefits of resisting are also really amazing. And, the last little bit of it is, we're kind of providing this movement, this resistance movement to our traditional food systems and our traditional ways of, the protein bar fitness, protein
Mhm.
bar industry,
Mhm.
and providing something really new and different. So there's a bunch of reasons why we feel resist so strongly, but those are the main ones.
I love it. I mean, the name of my private practice is Disruptive Nutrition, and I love to
Yes.
say that I'm unapologetically disruptive. And I feel like you guys are disrupting. I really want to disrupt the diet industry, and you're really disrupting this industry that is important, but we have been so malnourished as a result of it. And it's just this like in so many ways, every nutritionist, dietitian, like we all have them, use them, and
Mhm.
yet it's actually harming us more than it's helping. And you are just literally disrupting that whole industry. So, I mean, I just love it. You're woman owned, you're
Yeah.
dynamic. I just it's something that I just think people can get behind. It's a movement and we're really excited to be a part of it. So, I know that for our listeners, we have a special deal for you for trying out the Resist bars. We'll put them in the show notes. You can also go to carrielapoli.com and you will see the bars there. It is something that I'm just really excited to share with all of our clients and all of our followers. So, Drew, you're just inspirational. And I feel like in so many ways, I know you didn't set out to be an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurial people, it's like a calling and you were
Yeah.
called. So thank you for listening to that calling.
Thank you. And thank you too. I feel like we're kind of in the same fight here. And
Yep.
it's so important that we do this and so important that the message reaches people. And I think, the thing that we want to leave people with when they experience our product and listen to our story is that, you have the control over your body. You are in charge of your health and you have the power to do that and feel yourself in the way that you wish and live your life in the way that you want with all the knowledge that we as providers can give you.
And that's the thing I always say when you know you can do. And the problem is so many of us don't really know. And
Right.
hopefully today's episode gave us just a little bit more clarity on what it is we need to be looking for, how we get behind and the people that are doing the work and doing the right thing. So thank you for doing all that. And I'm excited for all that's to come. So make sure you guys follow Resist on Instagram and go get yourself some bars and see which flavors you like the best. Thanks so
Yeah,
much, Drew.
stocking stuffers, stock up for the holidays.
Oh, they're good stocking stuffers too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Drew, so much.